fit. Come on up, Dr. Nicole.
Okay, so I'm a woman of a certain age as well, so I got my fan. I got my notes. This is my fan, though. Don't judge me. So I'm so excited to be here. And let me say out of the gate, I'm here to be in compliment to everything you've heard today. However, I'm not here for who you already were before you walked in this building. I'm here for who you have not yet become. I'm going to say that one more time because I don't think y'all heard me. I'm not here for the woman you were this morning. You know, the woman you left the same dirty clothes at home that were not folded, the same man on the couch, or at least that's just at my house, and he'll probably still be there when I get home. The same bills that you know you need to pay, but you didn't feel like doing all the bill payments, or maybe that's just me, I'm just telling all my business today. All of those things will be the same, but yet you learned so many valuable things today. What will you do different? That's my question. See, it doesn't matter if you're excited or inspired or motivated if you don't activate from what you learned today. So I'm here to stir you up and to activate you. And I'm really here to give you some tools and some tips. So you guys also have to know, those of you that don't know me, I'm a teacher at heart. So yes, I'm looking for pens and stuff, because I'm going to give you notes. I'm going to give you stuff to take home and implement. Because again, if you're inspired but you don't go home and activate anything, listen. Hope without implementation is hallucination. And you can go do that on some fancy drug if you want to. I ain't here for that. I'm here that you implement, and I move around too, right? So y'all ready? Okay, so I'm gonna read some of my notes, and then I do have stuff to teach you, okay? So let me tell you some of the things I wrote. And it's a lot, so I'm not gonna go through all of them. Remember who you are. Dr. Avis, now let me tell you, when she said that, let me tell you the scene that popped in my head. Those of you, I'm a movie person. I got my fangirl, I'm with you. So listen, Black Panther. We all saw the movie. Here's the scene. King T'Challa's down. King Jabari, this is the first fight. He's down, King Jabari's over him. Y'all remember the scene? What does Angela Bassett say to him? Remember who you are. It's my horrible African accent. But what happens, life comes and we forget who we are. And I'm sharing this with you because there was a time in my own life, and I want you to understand, I'm not somebody that just talks the talk. I'm somebody that walks it, lives it, learns it, and then I teach it. Some of y'all will get that later. So for me, my journey of really understanding what my purpose is and understanding that I was called. How many of you guys are called? Everybody's hand should be up, because if you weren't called, you would not have been born. And calling, everybody's not called to the pulpit. Hello, everybody can't be a preacher. So we're all called, okay? So my understanding of this happened in 1993 when I had the job I've dreamed of since I was 7 years old. So back then, she read my bio, I worked in the entertainment industry. So I worked for Viacom's largest cable network. We had an outreach to over 89 million homes on a weekly basis. Then from there, I got elevated into a casting position, working on the #1 TV show on Fox, which is in reruns. Y'all probably watch it. And then from there, I worked with the entertainment group, and what we produced generated over $12.6 billion a year. I'm sharing that with you because I want you to realize I was playing pretty big. Bumping elbows with all the stars, people you see on TV and have looked at on films. I was living a dream. But in the dark of the night when I was by myself, I felt like something was missing. And every time I tried to talk to one of my girlfriends about it, they would say, girl, have you lost your mind? You remember the red carpet event we went to and all the things you get us in? And so I started to feel like maybe I am a little crazy because I love my job, and yet I felt this hole in my soul. And somebody in this room right now is in that exact same place. And so, in the middle of me feeling like this, one of my girlfriends said, let's volunteer at our church on a Friday night. How many of you guys have ever heard of a youth lock-in? Okay, so I'm in the room. I should have known. I'm at church. I should have known y'all would understand. So when I started working with young women that night, as their eyes lit up, my heart lit up. And I realized, oh my God, this is the thing I've been looking for. This is the thing that I've been missing. But this thing, I didn't know what to call it. I had never heard of coaching. This was in 1993. Even though I'm still 33, get your life together. But for the first time in my life, my soul was alive. And so I had a decision to make. I love that Trish talked about that your purpose, she called it a different way, but when she said it, your purpose matriculates. See, what I didn't realize then, y'all, I worked in casting and production. What do I do now? Casting and production. I help you get clear on your purpose and get in the role that God ordained for you. And for the entrepreneurs I'm working with, I help produce your purpose into your business. You guys get that? So this is not about me, but I want you to see how God uses everything. What's that Bible verse? All things work together? Or is it a couple things work together? So I want you to understand that God is going to let you live on whatever level you settle for. So if you serve a small God, you can take your purse. This session is not for you and you can go on home. I'm going to say that one more time. If you serve a small God, and this is for y'all on YouTube or wherever you are as well. If you serve a small God, this session is not for you. Because who you were already was great. Your bio was great, your resume was great, but all of that is done. What's the next version of you that's dying to come out? I realized in that moment, in that church in 1993, what God was doing was stirring up my gift. Y'all heard the song, Stirred Up, Stirred Up? And you guys are in this room by no coincidence. God is stirring up your gift. So what will you do when you leave here? Now, I'm going to give you a gift. Now, I'm going to tell y'all a secret. So I forgot there was such thing as a QR code. Don't have one of those. Y'all to get that later. Anyway, so let me tell you why I'm giving you this gift. So what God began to show me in that moment from my own self, and yes, obviously I shifted and left entertainment, right? This is the Bible verse God took me to in that moment. Genesis 1:28 that says, and then God blessed them and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion. Then he lists all the things to have dominion over. Have you guys realized that God created you to have dominion, to subdue, if needed now more than ever? You have an arena that you were created to dominate in. Now, because I'm not going to have time to go all the way into that, I'm going to gift you a book. I'll call it my DFM formula. Get it? Dominion, fruitful, multiply. Y'all get it? So go to dfmformulabook.com. Do it now, because some of y'all going to think you're going to do it later and you won't remember. You're going to call your girlfriend. She's going to go, girl, I don't remember that website. dfmformulabook.com. Put your name, email. It's going to walk you through how do you get clear. Let me tell you about how I write. It's not a read, it's a do. I give you questions to answer so you can get clear on the lane that God created you to dominate in. Okay? Because here's what many of you guys are doing. Again, it's dfmformulabook.com. Some of y'all are playing double dutch with your purpose. Y'all remember double dutch? And God and Jesus, God's on one side, Jesus on the other. They just turning the ropes. Do you guys know there's never a good time to jump in and double dutch? It's never a good time. Y'all remember that? How many of y'all used to double dutch? Right? You just got to jump. God is looking for your jump. And so what my goal is in the next few minutes is to give you the 5 steps you need in order to press into it. So in the next 2 hours, I'm going to give that to you. Y'all ready? I'm sure Drew laughed harder than everybody else when I just said that. Again, dfmformulabook.com. Okay. So with that, I'm going to give you the tools to press. So and I always got to give you a Bible verse. Philippians 3:13-14. The Bible says, brothers, I'm going to say sisters. Sisters, I do not count myself to have apprehended, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forward to those things which are ahead, I toward the goal for the prize of the upper call of God in Christ Jesus. I press. So how do you press? How do you press when everything around you is not what you thought it was going to be? How do you press when your boss doesn't appreciate your brilliance? How do you press when your kids are getting on your nerves? How do you press when you thought that you had the promotion in the bag and yet you didn't? How do you press? So I'm going to give you 5 steps to press. Y'all ready? So I told you I'm a teacher, so I'm going to give you the steps. Step number 1, I'm spelling out press, by the way. Step number 1 is you got to let go of perception. I love that every step I wrote on here, y'all, they talked about this today. So what I'm doing, I'm coming to be a cherry on top of the pie they already gave you. Okay? So you got to let go of perception. Some of you, your problem is that you live in the shoulds. You've been shoulding on yourself. You're thinking about where you should be by now and all the things you should have, instead of being clear and excited about where you are and standing still listening for God's next direction for you. Or maybe you've been playing small. You've been judging yourself because you may be saying things like, oh, I could never do that, or why would I ever think that I could? So you're limiting God's ability to bless you. I remember my aunt said this to me once. I don't remember what I was talking to her about, but I remember she said this to me and I use it all the time. Don't limit God's ability to bless you. If God can do, as it says in Ephesians 3:20, abundantly above all we could ask or think. Think about what that says. Abundantly above all we could ask or think. That means it's bigger than what you could ever think. Then of course you're going to be scared. Of course, because it's bigger than what you could ever ask or think. I believe God puts us in those situations so we have to rely on him. So instead of double dutching, well, I think I can do it. No, I should do it. No, I'm not going to do it. Jump all the way in it and watch God show up. Watch him show up in ways you never thought was possible. A great example of that is Beyonce. See, I like music too, girl. The reason I say Beyonce is a great example of that is because think about what Beyonce, y'all won't bother me if you're coming up here. Come on, you're fine. The reason I love Beyonce is because she is in a lane all by herself. She's not competing with anybody else, is she? Right? This girl outdoes her own self. So if you're busy looking at somebody else, thinking I'm going to be just like that person, and so you become a second-rate version of that person, then one of us isn't necessary. Some of y'all will get that later. So the reason I believe Beyonce does so well is because she goes here with the album, then who would ever thought she'd do a country album? She doesn't limit perception, self-judgment. I'm sure she self-doubts herself too. She's human. As long as we're in the skin, everybody does it. But the difference is that she presses past perception, whether it's perception of other people or perception of her own self-judgment. Y'all got that? That's your first P. Next P is let go. Oh, sorry, there's no next P. See, I can't even spell. Next is R. And nobody was going to correct me either. Y'all were going to roll with it like, well, she's going to press in a different way. She got a different dictionary. So the next is you got to let go of the rear view. So if I'm driving and I'm looking in my rearview mirror, what's going to happen? And see, many of you let yesterday hinder your tomorrow. You know the relationship that didn't work? Oh, I can tell y'all stories. We ain't got enough time to talk about the relationships that didn't work for me. That had I looked at them, I would have never seen the gift that my husband was. Or the boss that didn't appreciate your brilliance. Or dare I say, the political climate we're going through right now, that was yesterday. Today is a new day. You know, they call today the present because today's a gift. But are you being fully in the gift and being present, or are you letting yesterday hinder you, right? So a little example, I'm always going to give you an example, David and Goliath. We've heard this story ad nauseum, right? So this is Nicole's version. Y'all ready? So I say David is like Webster. How many of y'all remember Webster? Am I aging myself? If you don't know who Webster is, that means you're way younger than me. Ask the person next to you. And Goliath is like The Rock times 10. Moment of silence for The Rock. And I'm back. So imagine if David is small. Some theologians say he was 12, okay? And listen, Goliath is coming around and the army won't fight him, the Navy won't fight him, the Marines won't fight him. Nobody will fight Goliath. But David says, I'll fight him. Now, here's the part I want you to understand about that moment for David. What King Saul did was give David his armor. Here, take on my armor. Since you're going to go fight, take on my armor. David put on the armor and said, this doesn't fit me. This isn't me. He didn't look at what other people had done before. He got clear on who he was and his giftedness, which was that slingshot. Had he done it differently, he would have died too. Okay? So, here's what I want you to get from David's story. Your comfort and your conviction can never coexist. David was more committed to his people than his own comfort. Was he scared? Yes. But listen, your faith doesn't get activated until you're in the face of fear. So you have a choice to make. And for many of you, going back to that double dutch, you letting fear keep you at that place saying, I'm getting ready to. Getting ready to is a choice too. It means you ain't. Even if you feel like it's making you in between, right? So P is what? Let go of perception. R is let go. First two are let go. First, E is focus on the end. Habakkuk 2:2, y'all know this Bible verse. Write the vision and make it plain on tablets. We know that part, but we don't hear this part all the time. That he may run who reads it. You've got to remind yourself where you're going. When God gives you a vision so big, so that night when I was standing in that church in 1993, I felt like I was at a crossroad. Do I do this thing that everybody else is saying, Nicole, this is everything you went to school for? This is everything everybody knew me for. Or do I do this thing that God is rumbling in my soul? So what did I do that night? I knew I'm going to follow God, even though I thought I was crazy too. I'm going to be honest. I wrote everything down that God was pouring into my spirit in that moment. Didn't understand half of what he said, but guess what? I'm living in what he said 30 years ago. I want y'all to get this. So you've got to write it down. And sometimes God only gives you breadcrumbs. Why does he do that? Because he wants to see if you're going to take the first step before he's going to give you the second. I call this place in your order. Now, we friends, so I'm going to tell y'all a little secret. When I'm having a cheat day, and I go to McDonald's, don't judge me, and I go to the drive-thru and I place my order. Let me tell you what I'm going to order. I'm going to order a filet of fish, right? So I go to she said, see, they judge me over here talking about, oh, wow. So listen, I go to the window and I place my order and I go, hi, can I have a filet of fish, please? As soon as I do that, I don't say, do you guys have filet of fish? Do you have the special sauce? Do you have the cheese? Do you have the bread I like? I don't ask them that. What do I do next? Drive up to the next window to get it. See, the problem is between God placing the order with you, you're busy trying to figure out how he gonna do it. That ain't your business. That's God's business. When you look at any great story in the Bible, Esther, Joseph, giving y'all some homework, right? All the things that they went through, in the middle of it never looked like they were going to get to the other side, that they were going to be blessed. You guys know I call, well, you don't know this, but you're going to know it now. I call the Bible God's Wealth Hall of Fame. God wants you to live abundantly above all, but it never said you're not going to go through challenges. He never said it was going to be easy. So you've got to write it down because when the things get hard, and they will, you've got to remember who you are. Remember where you're going. Remember why you're doing what you're doing, right? S is you have to have strategy. Because listen, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think that's Benjamin Franklin that said that. Real quick story. How many of you guys saw The Queen's Gambit on Netflix? Okay, one of my little favorite. If you didn't see it, I'm not going to mess it up for you. It's a good series. I highly recommend it. Anyway, one of my favorites in COVID. So I'm going to tell a little bit, but I'm not going to mess it up for you, okay? So the series is about an orphan in the 50s, and she becomes like this chess champion, okay? Do you know why she became a chess champion? Strategy. Wasn't because she was the smartest. First of all, she's an orphan in an orphanage in the 50s. Why should she ever? And by the way, chess is a largely male game. Whether this is true or not, doesn't matter, right? The point is this. I'm going to tell you 5 lessons real quick, and then I'm going to wrap it up. Number 1, she didn't settle. She didn't settle for who she was as an orphan. She went after what she knew was possible for her. Second, she started before she was ready. That's like getting ready to. She just jumped all the way in, y'all. Number 3, she didn't try to fit in because she didn't. She was an orphan, a girl, in a largely wealthy male competition. Number 4, she was committed to master it. Some of y'all have been lazy. And I think I said this before. I'm going to say it one more time again. God is going to let you settle on whatever level you settle for. When God has so much more for you. Number 5, she realized that she didn't have every answer. She kept learning and growing. The thing I loved about that watching her is when she would get into competition, even though she would be like first in competition, she would still watch other players because she was learning. And I want you guys to get, we are in a moment in history where it's time for us to learn and it's time for us to do something different. What you gonna do different? How will you master your gift in the lane God is calling you to? Because ultimately, the last S of press is that you shine. God created you to shine. Matthew 5:16. Let your light so shine among men, and I always like to say and women, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. God created us all to shine. That's why I call it your brilliance, because I want you to be so bright that you need to hand me some sunglasses so I can look at you. But when you're doing the thing God crafted and created you to do, serving all the people that need that gift in you, that you then are producing good results, which is fruitful. Fruitful means producing good result. God gives you a gift because it's not even about you. It's for every person that needs that gift in you. And when you don't do that thing, you're being selfish. You're holding up somebody's answered prayer. And right now, that could be our whole community. And ultimately, when you increase, because the more you do it, it's going to increase, you shine. And so my call and really fire under your butt for today is when you leave this place, knowing it's time to press, whether you need to do all 5 or maybe you start with 1. The important part is for you to decide the first step you need to take. And once you take that, here's what I'm going to suggest you do. Tomorrow night, I'm going to give you a whole day off. Tomorrow night, come back to all the notes you wrote. Give yourself a goal for the week. When you finish that goal, check it off. I love checking off my things to do, by the way. Then do the next. But you always want to be working toward what's the next level of you that God is looking for. Listen, some of y'all, last thing I'm going to say, I'm negative 20 seconds. For some of y'all, there's a warrant out for your arrest. There's a warrant out for your arrest. There's your picture is on the walls of heaven, and the angels have put out an APB because you aren't doing the thing God crafted and created you to do. Your presence today is by no coincidence. It's time. It's time for you to go and be the answer God created you to be in this world. Thank you so much. It's been my honor.
Fantastic, phenomenal, incredible. Thank you again.